There's no way you can win. Believe me.
I'm Sadie Guinness, and I'm going to recap everything that happened in the Vikings 6A finale, including whether or not Bjorn survived. The entire season so far has been building toward this big battle between the Scandinavian Vikings and the Russ Vikings. Although Bjorn was able to convince Harald to unite together in battle against the Russ, a lot of the other Viking kings didn't send their forces to help, proving that Harald's election as king of all Norway was an empty one. Bjorn does everything he can to try and out-strategize Ivar, but Ivar is able to use his knowledge of the battle site to sneak attack the Scandinavian Vikings by having the Russ army actually scale a mountainside so they're able to encircle the enemy forces. Eventually, Harald is forced to tell his troops to retreat, but by then it is too late, and even as they're trying to run away, they are getting just picked off by Ivar and Oleg's forces in a very brutal fashion. Harald fights until the bitter end, but he winds up getting stabbed by a Russ soldier on the battlefield, and then Eric the Red finds Harald bleeding out on the battlefield and winds up taking his crown and leaving Harald seemingly to die. But just because this might be the end of Harald doesn't mean that now Bjorn can finally get the crown and become king of all Norway. In the season's final moments, Ivar surprises Bjorn on the battlefield and stabs him through the chest. Bjorn collapses on the battlefield, and a somewhat despondent Ivar watches on before we get shots of Ivar, Hvitserk, and Oleg celebrating their victory over the Scandinavian Vikings. But is Bjorn really dead? Here's what Alexander Ludwig had to say.
That's the big question, I guess. That'll have to bring the fans back to keep watching. It certainly doesn't look good for him, I'll tell you that.
They have done a good job of making Alexander Ludwig look much older and weathered than he is, because he looks damn good. Vikings creator Michael Hurst also emphasized to me that while Bjorn is on the brink of death, he is not dead yet, and that when the show returns, a lot of things we thought to be true in this finale will be proven not to be. What does that mean?
Everything and nothing.
So was Ivar stabbing Bjorn just another vision that didn't actually happen? I don't think the answer is going to be that far out of the box. Most likely Bjorn is actually gravely wounded, and he still may potentially die from this, but maybe not right away. They already pulled a fake funeral with Ragnar, so whatever this twist proves to be, hopefully it's not another bait and switch like that again. One thing we do know for sure is that regardless of whether or not Bjorn ultimately survives this wound, we will see him again when Vikings returns.
He doesn't go without a fight, and whether or not he is still alive, you will see a version of Bjorn in the next season in some way, shape, or form.
As for what Ludwig might mean by that, the show has always embraced the surreal. Look no further than those beach conversations between Ivar and Bjorn for proof. So maybe in the season 6B premiere, we'll see Bjorn in the space between life and death, much like the way we saw Lagertha in season 5. Doing this would provide Bjorn an opportunity to work through his legacy, perhaps with the aid of the seer, before he ultimately moves on. It could maybe even provide an opportunity for some cameos from some long-dead characters as Bjorn looks back on his past. Potentially seeing Bjorn in limbo would give Bjorn and viewers a chance to get some closure, which is something Ludwig said was really important to him.
So I think that most specifically for Bjorn, I think he wished he could have been a better father. And he admits to that later on the show. And that's something that I spoke to Michael about in depth, was how important it was that we had that kind of closure, that he admits his wrongs before he goes. And I think in that sense, the fans will certainly feel some sort of finality in his death.
And full disclosure, although Ludwig does refer to Bjorn's death here, it is unclear whether he's referring to Bjorn's death by Ivar stabbing him in the 6A finale or his death later on in the final 10 episodes. However, Ludwig did say that Bjorn dying at Ivar's hand is in line with exactly what he had wanted for this character.
I wanted Bjorn to go at the hands of somebody like Ivar. If it wasn't Ivar, then it would have been by his own hand, or something so tragic that the audience was just kind of floored by it, because it's so obvious that for Bjorn to finally come up and achieve all this greatness and take his brother down and save the day, and it's kind of what everybody secretly wants.
Ivar stabbing Bjorn was only the latest in tragedies that Bjorn suffered this season. He lost the election to be king of Norway. He lost his son as a result of his decision to show mercy to Whitehair. He lost his brother Hvitserk after he killed Lagertha. He lost his unborn child with Gunhild, and his people lost the battle with the Russ.
Hvitserk is still alive. Thought he was burning at the stake.
They let him live. Mistake. Mistake. Those were drums, by the way.
That was a drum?
Taken all together, it is easy to believe what Ivar said about the gods abandoning Bjorn. But Ludwig teased that things aren't as simple as Ivar perceived them to be.
In the next 10 episodes, you'll see that even in death, the gods are on his side.
Whether or not Bjorn survives, or for how long, the History Drama's final season has a lot of exciting things lined up. Here's what you can expect. Now that Flatnose, should I call him Flatnose or Shettle?
What?
Pronunciation. If I mispronounce any names, I'm sorry. After Shettle introduces them to Oter, Ubbe and Torvi are going to attempt to find the Golden Land, aka North America. And no, Michael Hurst would not confirm to me that the Golden Land is North America, but I've looked at a map, and I've seen what is west of Iceland, so figure it out. This is something that real-life Viking Leif Erikson did when he became the first European to step foot on continental North America and established a settlement in what's now Newfoundland. Leif also happened to be the son of Eric the Red, who was introduced this season and founded Greenland in real life. So it'll be interesting to see how, if at all, Eric gets incorporated into this Golden Land storyline. But while we're excited to see the show finally take on the Viking exploration of North America, I'm definitely worried about Ubbe and Torvi because their guide is not who he seems. Unless he seems shady to you, and then he is exactly who he seems. This dude. After Ubbe called him out on praying to a Christian god, Oter revealed he used to be an English monk named Athelstan who took on a Danish wanderer's identity. He conveniently left out the part that he actually killed this dude. What else did he leave out? What Oter wants, who he really is, and the significance of the name Athelstan remains to be seen, but Ubbe and Torve should definitely watch their backs around him. Even with such an untrustworthy guide, I am pretty positive that they're gonna make it to the Golden Land based on this photo that has been going around the internet forever of Jordan Patrick Smith with a bald eagle. Yet even when Ubbe and Torvi do reach their destination, their troubles are only gonna begin. Michael Hurst told me that when Ubbe and Torvi do reach an unknown land in the final episodes, they're gonna discover a monster that lives there. I don't think it's gonna be like a literal monster, maybe an animal? I don't know.
Yeah, what kind of animal? Like grizzly bear?
Yeah, that's my first thought is like a bear. Do they have bears in England? Like a big bear? So my bet is it's gonna be a grizzly bear.
A black cuddly bear.
Oh my god, I love
that just wants to jump on a trampoline.
Meanwhile, Ivar is probably gonna stage a coup against Oleg. Doy. It didn't take long after Oleg took Ivar in that Ivar began plotting against Oleg, freeing his brother Dur, and grooming Igor to become more than just a puppet king. Although Ivar and Oleg never really trusted each other and have even been laying these foundations for future betrayals, they were able to work together throughout the whole season so far and achieve their goal of winning this big battle in the finale. But now that that's in the past, this uneasy alliance is probably gonna fall apart and fast. God, I have no idea what's gonna happen in the show. Michael Hurst told me that if Oleg doesn't follow through on the agreed-upon plan to make Ivar the king of all Norway, Ivar might have to bring the conspiracy against Oleg to fruition. That means that Ivar will probably begin working more closely with Katya, who revealed she's also aligned with Dur. But working with Katya is probably only going to bring even more dangers for Ivar. As Ivar put it so bluntly, he is falling in love with Katya, but he doesn't even know her, and neither do we. Ivar clearly still believes that Katya is the resurrected soul of his dead wife Freydis, but when Hvitserk met her, he didn't see any resemblance between the two, meaning that this alleged connection between Katya and Freydis is entirely in Ivar's head. However, just because Ivar might get closer with Katya because he believes she's Freydis, doesn't mean that she isn't actually working with Dur to take down Oleg. It also doesn't mean that she isn't gearing up for a big betrayal of her own and will try and kill Ivar or take him out once he's outlived his purpose to her. Michael Hurst said everyone is playing their own game right now, and Ivar being killed by Katya would be great payoff to his theory that she is a doppelganger of the wife he murdered sent to punish him. It would also provide some fitting retribution for all of the death and destruction Ivar has wreaked in this series. Because even though Ivar has softened a lot since he lost the Battle of Kattegat, he still is not automatically forgiven for all the things he did in his past. I still love you though. The Scandinavian Vikings are gonna have to find a new direction. We have never seen the Vikings suffer a loss on this scale before in the show. Not only did they lose a lot of warriors, but both Harald and Bjorn seemed on the brink of death the last time we saw them. While the first half of the season focused a lot on Bjorn and Harald's quest for power, maybe the second half will see Bjorn's wives, and maybe widows, Gunhild and Ingrid stepping up and becoming leaders in their own right. We've seen how great Gunhild is at rallying people to her cause and how formidable a warrior she is. And without Lagertha around anymore, it would be great to see Gunhild, Ingrid, and Torvi all really take on bigger roles in the show's final episodes. Whoever steps up to lead the Scandinavian Vikings will probably have to do things a little differently this time though. As Eric, Bjorn, Olaf, and so many more warned this season, life as the Vikings knew it is coming to an end. It's likely that all the characters, no matter what their allegiances are gonna have to start figuring out what this new world looks like and what their place is in it. The first half of Vikings' final season delivered a lot of heartbreak and wrapped up some long simmering storylines, but we still have a lot of questions going into the last 10 episodes. What the heck happened to Floki? I'm like so annoyed that I just watched 10 more episodes of Vikings and I'm still no closer to knowing what happened to my favorite shipbuilder. Is he dead? Is he alive? Is he the seer? I don't know. I honestly would have just assumed Floki had died in that cave if everyone wasn't being so shady about this whole situation. So will we get a definitive answer about what happened to Floki? Michael Hurst couldn't say a lot on the Floki situation, but he did say that if anyone is going to reveal the truth about what happened to Floki, it's going to be Oter. As for what might have actually happened to Floki, the most popular theory is that he resurrected, perhaps even as the seer. However, there are also those who think that Floki's death was exactly as it seemed, and he died in the cave staring at a Christian cross, which doubled as a sign that his faith had failed him and that his downfall began with the murder of Athelstan. But if either one of those were true, I don't know why people would be so shady about it. So as fitting as either one of those theories would be, unfortunately, I don't think either one is going to prove to be the truth. Which is like sad, because I do like both of those. Will Ivar kill Hvitserk? Hvitserk was so sure that he and Ivar were fated to kill each other that he was literally driven mad for half of the season so far. And as we saw with Lagertha, no one can escape their fate. So does that mean Ivar will kill Hvitserk? Or after killing Sigurd and potentially killing Bjorn, will Ivar not want to make the same mistake a third time? How many brothers can one dude kill, you know? Ludwig did say that Ivar is going to carry some regret over what happened with Bjorn, so maybe he is going to have learned his lesson and will, not try and murder Hvitserk.
If I know Michael, and I do very well, Ivar is not just a caricature. None of these characters are, and that's our job as actors to make sure that we show their humanity. They're not just some big roaring Vikings, they're people. And even a sociopath like Ivar has some sort of depth to him, and I think that towards the final 10 episodes, you will see that.
However, if Ivar does try and stop killing all of his family members, that might leave him vulnerable to be killed by Hvitserk instead of the other way around. Hvitserk did say that he's going to commit to his destructive element, which means it's going to be even harder to predict what he's going to do next. Will the final season give us any cameos from old and returning characters? After spending the first half of season 6 in Scandinavia, Rus, and Iceland, the final episodes will see a return to Wessex, where I'm sure we'll be checking in with our old buddy Alfred. What's up, dude? Long time no see. Michael Hurst said that the Vikings are going to return to Wessex to settle some unfinished business, and maybe part of that will be enlisting some aid to help fight the Rus. And while they're at it, maybe they'll reach out to Rollo for some help as well. When I spoke with Michael Hurst, he couldn't name names, but he did say that it's certainly possible that we'll see one or more original characters appear in these final episodes. While Rollo is definitely the most likely to return since he has done it so many times before, I'm also going to throw out Ragnar, Lagertha, Floki, and Athelstan on the list of people I would like to see come back in some fashion. Maybe they all go to Valhalla together. Big ol' Bjorn family hug once he dies. Baby goats. I want a baby goat too. The good news is, even if an actor doesn't return for Vikings' final 10 episodes, there's always the upcoming Netflix spinoff Valhalla. While Catherine Winnick told us she has no intentions of playing a Viking again, but would be down to direct an episode of Valhalla, Alexander Ludwig said that he is definitely open to reprising the role of Bjorn in the future.
Never say never, who knows? This might not be the end of my time with Bjorn, Netflix has just picked up a new spin-off series, and I know that there has been chats about possibly doing films about it, and I do think that there's a lot more story that can be told with this show if it was done the right way. So, there's just so much incredible history, in the Vikings culture, so who knows,
Who would you like to see return in Vikings' final episodes or in Netflix's Valhalla? Let us know in the comments below, and please check out more of our What the F videos.